We're ready, Elise.
Can you hear me now, John? Well, here we are with our PA at 5, and all for being patient with us. I was having a little technical difficulty, and that's the age that we're in this computer world. So welcome you all here. This is a little different format than we've used previously, so we want to welcome everyone who's joining us on the YouTube channel for our PA at 5. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you will have the opportunity to win a $100 Dr. Java's gift certificate through the chamber. And yeah, click subscribe as you're watching. So, welcome Chief Jonathan Bergen here from the Prince Albert Police Service with us as our guest tonight. And just a little recap on the PA at 5. We've started this process with the Prince entrepreneurs, and it was kind of their idea to get this going. And we thank them for that. And normally we would like to be meeting at the Rock and Iron in person, but COVID has not allowed us to do that as yet. So we hope that as things progress, we can get there eventually. So back to that, meeting in person. Welcome to our audience, and welcome Chief John Bergen. I'll just introduce myself quickly. I'm Joe Bexon with PA Now, and I'll be here this evening. And so we'll get started with a little bit about Jonathan's background, and we'll find out a little bit more, learn about the fellow who's leading our local police service. So Jonathan, let's go back to kind of where you were and how you ended up getting into Prince Albert and getting into the police service.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you to the Chamber for inviting me along for tonight's episode here at Live at 5-ish, Live at 5-ish. And it's definitely been a year to adapt, and I think it's going to progress us and definitely make us stronger going forward. And so it's been a year like we've never expected or could have planned for, but I think we've definitely rose to the challenge and did as good as we could have with what everybody's faced and you know, across the globe, and that's true here for the police service. So about myself, I guess it's kind of nice to talk about the person behind the position and how did I end up here. I consider Prince Albert home, always have. I actually wasn't born here. I was born in McGrath, Alberta, but my parents were in Prince Albert prior to that. Went out into Alberta for a short period of time, and then returned to the city of Prince Albert. And actually, my father policed here for his career. Also a farming family in the area of near Wapiti Ski Hill. I think everybody would know where that landmark is, and so that was the farm that I spent some of my young years on. A lot of my childhood, I grew up in, for the most part, in Nordale, just across the road. I lived in actually 3 different homes in Nordale on 4th Avenue Northwest, and one as just an infant, my teenage years were a little more down the road to the north, and then as an adult, I bought my own house just south of that on the same street, and so I spent a lot of my time growing up in Nordale, but also lived in the city for a few years as well up on Gilmore Crescent. So when I was, I guess growing up, things I enjoyed to do were always sports, always involved in sports, especially when I lived on the farm, and really loved hockey, like most of Prince Albert does, and any team sport through the schools as well, and always enjoyed that. And I think that, coming into policing is a team sport. And other interest that I had, growing up and into my young adult years was martial arts. Definitely enjoyed learning as much as I can about different martial arts, and achieved actually a black belt as a young teenager, and really enjoyed those, challenging myself and growing in the sport. When I was in my teen years, I actually worked in security, and always definitely looked up to my dad, and looked up to the Prince Albert Police Service and the members that served here. I always seen the police service as a very professional organization, very proud organization, and I was always proud to be able to say that I was connected to it, and that my dad was a part of it, and that's still true today. When I was looking at what are my aspirations for career, I just felt like I got pulled into the direction of policing. When I was finished high school, I went off to I joined the Cudworth Police Service, and that's just a small town south of Waka, and there's about 1,200 residents at the time living in Cudworth, and it was policed by a chief. There was a chief responsible for the policing of the municipality, the small town, and also worked in cooperation with the RCMP and offered some policing support in the RM as well. And so it was a really great place to start off my career at a young age. I was just fairly fresh out of high school when I did get accepted into that position, and I spent about 2.5 years there. Why I thought it was a great way to start off in my career was because I got to experience so many things, and I got to experience delivering services that we often hub supports do here in the larger police service or any other large police service. So some of those things included preparing court documents that, here in Prince Albert, we have staff do that, or receiving the call directly, where, in most police services it goes through a call center and a dispatch center. We would respond to all situations, all crimes, although less, but experienced it from, start to finish. I prosecuted my own tickets, and so I actually acted as a Crown prosecutor, and so it was quite a lot of experience at a young age, learning about policing, and definitely learning the importance of connecting with the community and being part of the community to make sure that you achieve your goals and you're successful. In a small town, and I still consider Prince Albert a fairly small city, and most everybody knows everyone. But that was definitely true for that small town that I started in. And if you're not supported by the town, you're not supported by the residents, it makes it very difficult to do your job. And you need the support because you're out there alone. And there's help that's not far away, but you are out there alone. And so there was lots of lessons learned. Like I said, Prince Albert was always home, and it was definitely my goal to come back here and serve for the Prince Albert Police Service. At the time, my dad was here serving. And I remember applying, and I walked in a resume, and this is where I want to work, and this is where I want to live, and this is where I want to raise my family. And at the time, I was told, hey, wait a minute, we're not in the business of hiring family, and there's family that lives here or works here, and so you're not going to be considered as an applicant. And this was back in 1997. 96 is when I started policing, and so we've grown a lot since then. When I actually was successful in being hired into Prince Albert in '98, I got the call. I got the call, and they said, we'd like you to bring in an application. We're doing some hiring, and so we're recruiting. And so I brought in my application. I said, well, I was told just, not long ago that you don't hire family, and I have family here, and I don't think you're just ready to leave just yet. That being said, is there any chance that I would be considered? And I got a different answer, and next thing I knew, I was hired. And with the group that I was hired in, there was actually a number of family relations that were hired. And I think, when you look at different professions, all professions, when that's what the family knows and that's what the family learns, it's also an interest of the entire family, and doctors raise doctors at times, and police officers raise police, and that's what happened in my family. So that brought me to Prince Albert. You're still with me? Everybody can still hear me? I'm watching the questions as well.
Yeah, we're still with you.
So that was back in 1998. So in 96, I'll take you back to 96. I went through basic recruit training. At the time, our municipal police officers all trained for Saskatchewan at the University of Regina. And at the time, it was a 16-week training course where you get the fundamentals of policing, and then you go off and you return to your home agency and you get some on-job training. So when you're receiving the fundamentals of policing in the classroom, and some of that stuff is, some of the instruction is definitely out in the field, but it's all basically simulated training. And when you're receiving it, you're there with all the municipal police officers that are new recruits across the province. At the time, in our class, it was class number 33. The police college started in the early 70s, I believe, and so 20 some years later, we were at the 33rd class, but there was only 12 of us, and that was considered quite a small class. There was times where the police college has trained double classes because of the size, and well over 20 each class. So we were quite a small group, and in that group there was a couple members from Prince Albert as well. And of course, that was a great experience. There's lots thrown at you. It's a challenge. It still is today, but today the basic recruit training is actually extended out to 20 weeks. So there's more instruction that occurs in basic recruit training. And then we return to the police college for our regular, municipal training that's advanced from the basic training. And so there's a number of courses that a member will continuously go back for and receive ongoing training throughout the term of their career. And so the U of R becomes pretty familiar with the new recruit, new hire, and of course throughout the duration of your career. And that brought me to Prince Albert. When I came, when I started in Prince Albert in 1998, there was 8 of us hired at the same time. We were at about 68 sworn members, and so that was a large group that was hired. And so I was deployed because I was trained directly onto a patrol shift. Other hires were deployed to different areas, and then ultimately went down to Regina for their training as well. Some of those earlier years in policing, I worked with quite senior members with lots of experience, and it was quite different back then. One of the things we often started our shift off with was a breakfast down at the downtown A&W, and we'd go in there, and I think for under $2 we get a full breakfast and a coffee, and head out on our day. Today when we see our shifts going out, there's often not a break like that to start their day. At times there is, but we don't see them sitting as very often, that's for sure. And the call demand has changed quite a bit. The patrol deployment that I was in, I worked about 4 years in patrol, and I always really enjoyed patrol, and I still do. The shifts were structured very similar as they are today. And you think, 23 years later, the growth on patrol has not been that much. At the time, we were serving with about 10 members. It was a sergeant, a corporal, and 8 constables. Sometimes the shift would get up to 11, sometimes it would be down to 9. And today we try to staff our shifts with 12. We know that that's stretching our resources thin, but we work within the numbers that we have. After about 4 years of working in the patrol division, I was very interested in being a dog handler, and I was definitely one of my biggest goals. And I got a question here. What was one of the biggest surprises you had as a chief, as a police officer? Biggest surprise. Let me think about that one. And now I'm distracted, trying to think of what was the greatest surprise. There's many. Being a police officer,
come back to that one, John.
There's a lot of unknowns that you go to. There's no 2 shifts that are the same, and there's no 2 calls that are the same. Often dealing with similar things, but definitely not the same. Anyway, as right about my 4 years serving with Prince Albert, my ultimate goal was to serve in the K9 unit, and I thought if I could achieve that, I've achieved my goals for Prince Albert. And just before an opportunity came up, I ended up serving in traffic for a short term, and we only had 1 position in traffic or 2 at times at that time, and I had an opportunity to go in and did municipal traffic enforcement for about 4 or 5 months. From there, I was successful in being selected for a police dog handler position. Back then, there was very few constable positions available outside of patrol. And so what that meant, if you were a constable, you were likely going to serve an extended period of time in the patrol division. And again, I always enjoyed patrol, and I did enjoy patrol work again today. But it didn't create much opportunity for development and growth and to really change your workday. And we do have many more of those opportunities now. Back then there was K9 and traffic, and at times there would be a constable seconded into a special investigative unit, or I remember that at times there was a constable into our forensics or into our joint forces unit, where we worked collectively with the RCMP on drug enforcement. But not many opportunities at all. If there was a handful, that would have been about it. So when I was selected for K9, I was really excited. Prior to me there was Ken Hunter, who served in there for a really long time. I think he was about 14 or 15 years, and we only really knew him as a K9 officer. And so I was pretty excited when I had the opportunity to go in and serve and work with the dog. We had 2 dog handlers. We worked straight night shifts, 4 on, 4 off. And when I started with actually one of my recruit training colleagues, Frank Porsos. And so we had a long relationship of working together through our training and then in the K9 section. So it was a really exciting time for me. And my first dog his name was Ajax. He came out of a broker in the U.S., and he was delivered, my training was delivered by a retired member of the Calgary Police Service who had a really awesome background in training dogs. He was, when he was in Calgary, he was actually preparing for the Olympics in the dog section. And so at the time there, the early 80s, they didn't have any detection dogs for explosives. So he was actually sent to Germany to receive some specialized explosive training for German Shepherd dogs. And so when he came back with that training, he actually deployed that dog as a trainer and deployed it with another handler. But he learned an awful lot. And the techniques that he learned when he was over in Germany are techniques that he shared when he trained us here in Prince Albert. So when he retired, we consulted him to come in and do our training right here in Prince Albert. So we got to stay home, and where prior to that, our handlers would go off to another agency and be trained under another agency. We trained under the RCMP, we trained under the Calgary Police Service, but we didn't have that skill set to deliver that training here. And we do today. And actually the first trainer position that endured the distance was a position that I worked towards and I fulfilled, and that was after training and handling 2 different police service dogs and working as a dog handler for 8 years. From there, I trained basically the handler that replaced me, and then continued to do the training for several years, and really enjoyed it. Really difficult work. When I seen what a dog team had to offer, I thought it would be quick and easy. It just all comes together, and there's definitely a lot of work that goes into the results of a successful team. And something that was definitely a highlight of my career. There's so many memories that I have from running with the police service dogs, the successes, the failures. There's one incident that we weren't successful on, and I still, when I drive by that area where I deployed and wasn't able to find the person, I still kind of kick myself wondering what went wrong, and you just never know. But we definitely had many successes, and it was definitely a career highlight for me. I was in the canine section when I started to expand into the other areas of police service. I thought, I want to do more. I want to make sure to continue to challenge myself, and so I was aggressive in working towards being an instructor in a number of areas for police service. I instructed in firearms. I instructed in defensive tactics. So that's our use of force training, and so of course, and then the canine as well. And I always enjoyed the instructing too. It was definitely challenging, but like canine work, rewarding. You see the results of the work that you've put in, and that training is what keeps our members safe, and it also keeps our public safe, because if we're using our tools properly and as we're trained to do, that's going to lead to the best outcomes. And there's so many stories I think of when I'm working in that area that we could talk a lot about that. But one of the most positive things that came out of that time was after I was actually completed, and my trainer, who I said was retired, he was contacted by the FBI, and so he called me up, and he was looking for somebody to support him in a training seminar, and basically, we're going down to Quantico, in Virginia, to work with the hostage rescue team of the FBI, and he invited me to go along. I was excited. To me, I think of a holiday for many is a trip to Mexico. A holiday for me was going to Quantico, Virginia, to take a look at the hostage rescue team, the equipment they have, meet the people that are working in that team, and to work right beside them, and to do that from the backstage, to go in the back door, and just to have that pass to see everything that happens there. Well, not everything. I'm sure nobody ever sees everything, but it was a great opportunity. And so there was about 5 or 6 dog teams that were attached to the hostage rescue team, who I think is about 150 operators today. And they were interested in a training profile that we offered, and I was able to be part of the 3 instructor team to go down and work with the group. And it was a week long. It was just it's an experience that I'll never forget. When I came back, and I thought about different training that was offered through the FBI and different opportunities that presented themselves there. I was invited back, but when I came back, it was quite an honor to receive a letter from the chief tactical officer of the hostage rescue team of the FBI, thanking us for our service and the training and education and the skills that we shared with their members, and so that's something I still am proud of today. But that's the dog work definitely gives you unique opportunities. So when I was in the canine position, I knew I felt like it was time to start applying for promotion. I was a constable for the first 8 years that I was in the dog handler position. So I was near the end of my term. I thought I'd probably stay there for a couple more years. That's what I wanted. The organization had something else in mind. I applied for a sergeant position, thinking, if I'm promoted, great. There's a lot of qualified applicants. I wasn't expecting it. I was hopeful, and I definitely put my best foot forward. I was in Calgary at the time, training with the K9 unit there, doing an advanced tactics course with the Calgary Police Service. Excellent course. It was an excellent week, and I learned an awful lot. And I'd actually just came out of the helicopter. I want to say Hawk 1, and we were doing a deployment training with the dogs to expose the dogs to flight, and then a deployment following flight. And so I just landed, just did an exercise with the dog, just flew over top of Calgary in a helicopter with my police service dog. And I got a call from the administration here, and was congratulated on being promoted. But at the same time, I was told that your term in K9 is done, so you're going to train your replacement and go off and do different things. And really, if I could have, if I had a goal in Prince Albert Police Service, it was to work in the K9 unit, and then following that, be a sergeant. And at that point, I felt like I fulfilled my dreams there. And so definitely really enjoyable time in policing for me. And from there, I returned back and went back in a patrol, and was, like I said, I always enjoyed patrol. I enjoyed working with the camaraderie that we have on the patrol shifts, working as a team, responding to the needs of the community. And that was something that I always like to do, and did that for a few years. At the time, we didn't have that many sergeant positions, and when just before I applied for a staff sergeant position, which was the next promotion, I was actually working in criminal investigations division and learning how to thoroughly investigate files. And I say learning because as a patrol officer, you know how to investigate, you know how to respond to a call, but the depth of investigation that a criminal investigator works towards is there's a lot more detail there. And so I was definitely learning that job when I was promoted to staff sergeant and returned back onto patrol and was overseeing the shift, and really really enjoyed that as well. That took me to about
John, just going to interject here. We've got a few questions coming up, and we'll come back to your staff sergeant position. But a couple of questions to the K9 unit, and one that I have is you obviously have a passion for the K9 and the dogs. Did you grow up with dogs?
That's I did, and when I go back to my childhood, my dad was actually served in the K9 unit as well, and so we had a police service dog at home, and so but for some reason when it always appealed to me, and it's something where we ask new recruits now, where would you like to work in the police service? And we commonly hear things like community policing unit or K9, or I want to be on the SWAT team. And so I think it's one of those areas that a lot of people are drawn to when they do enter into policing.
One of the questions we had, and you and I talked about this, was how many constables are in the K9 unit. And when I say constables, I mean active K9.
We have, today we have 3 K9 officers deployed. It's our goal to get up to 4 teams. We're working towards that, and we're going to continue to work towards that. We, prior to last year, we had 2, and there was one time where we were at 3 many years ago, but for the most part we ran with 2. So we have enhanced the unit with a goal to return to have 4 active teams following the platoons. We know that having a dog available helps in a lot of ways. The dog handlers respond to a high number of calls, They don't do as much follow-up investigative work on the calls, but they respond as a backup unit, a support unit to a really high number of calls. And also, when there's a dog there, we know that people make different decisions, and there's often compliance is better. It's in a lot of ways it can be safer for the person that's going to be arrested or that may choose to resist otherwise, and also safer for our members. And that means enhanced safety of the public too. So I do definitely support it. Our police dogs are typically handled by the same handler through their career. There's times if for whatever reason that handler isn't going to continue or needs to transition dogs, that happens at times when it's unusual. It's typical that the handler will continue with the same dog through the term of the dog, which is 5 to 7, 8 years, depending on health. And with the training is done by training oversight. So the handler will be trained by somebody and certified based on a provincial standard that is fairly new. Actually, it's existed since 2005, and prior to that, each police service had their own standard. But there is a provincial standard that we certify to now.
Another question that came our way is, and I'll let you expand on this, is each canine member have its own handler, and are they interchangeable, or do they just stick with?
Yeah, I think I just kind of talked about that. That's for the most part they'll stay with the same handler for the term of their deployment. And it looks like Joe's not a dog guy.
Sorry about that. My cat broke into my office here. Do you want to jump back into how you progressed to staff and carry on then, and then we will have a few more questions, and we'll bring those up a little later.
Excellent. So back in 2015 was when I seen an opportunity present itself to be an administrator when at the time it was Chief Cooper who posted for an inspector, and I made application for that, and I was selected, and again felt very fortunate to be given that opportunity. Went into the criminal investigation division and overseeing the serious investigation work and the integrated units, and got a lot of exposure both to the greater depth of investigations and the partnerships that we were in with the RCMP, and really exposed provincially as well. And so it was a great opportunity to understand the administrative side of policing, and from there I was in that position till 2018 when Chief Cooper retired and was successful in the chief's position in Saskatchewan, and for a short term there we had acting chief Jeff Rowe, who was a deputy chief who acted after Chief Cooper had retired, and then he elected to retire, and I was actively in the process, the chief's process at the time, and was given the opportunity to serve as the acting chief, and so experienced that for about 5 months, and it was a great opportunity, but it was extremely challenging too. So some of the support staff and the knowledge had gone, and it felt like I walked into the chief's office and I had about 6 weeks to deliver a budget, and I guess the detail and the depth of knowledge that has to come with that is pretty extensive, and some of the support staff that earlier worked on that budget had been gone shortly after the chief. So it was definitely a challenge, but the amount of, I think, personal growth that came with that I see it as an opportunity more than anything. Prior to making that decision about serving in the position of chief or making the application for it, I was fortunate in that I could further my education and training, and I received some courses through the Canadian Police College in leadership, and was actually just completed the executive development course that the Canadian Police College offers, and it's actually their top level leadership course. It goes on for about 13 months, and there's an awful lot of content in that course, and there's credits that come with that to work towards a degree or a master's. And the executives that choose to go on, and it was just a great course. And so I just completed that. I worked on performance management and performance measures through that course, and there's so brought that fresh education and leadership training into the position here for that acting term, which was shortly after announced. When I was making that conscious decision on whether I should compete for the position, I looked at the organization. I knew that economics were going to challenge the not just the city but the province, the country. We could see that. We knew that there was definitely a number of challenges for Prince Albert and specifically for the police service. So there was lots to consider in making that decision. We knew that our building was one that couldn't house us all. We were broken into all these different office spaces. We were leasing a number of different offices around the city to create enough space to house our members. And so even just that challenge alone, knowing that the right solution or the best option was a $40 million decision, and knowing that that's a pretty far reach for our community to invest into a building. And on top of all the things that were considered in making the decision, a pandemic was definitely not one of them. And the stresses and challenges that came with that, and the fears, the unknowns. So it's definitely been a challenging term, but I think in a lot of ways we're a lot stronger as an organization today because of what we've been able to achieve. We've had outbreaks here in the organization. We've had positive cases in our police cars. We've had positive cases in our cell block. We had one just the other day, and we've had a number of members that have been exposed and subsequently tested positive themselves. Most of those incidents are because of the job that they're doing and the service that they're providing for the community, and that's why. And when we think about the pandemic and we think about the challenges it's causing us today, I think about our members and the need for them to be vaccinated. We see that with the different variants, they're also leaving different outcomes. We're seeing younger people with worse results, and many which have died. And I definitely don't want that to happen at all, but I really don't want that to happen to any of our members. We need to keep them safe, and we need to make sure they have the tools to do to provide the service to the community. And even more than that, we need to make sure that they're healthy in responding to the community's needs. I don't think there's anybody in the city of Prince Albert that wants asymptomatic police officer to show up at their house to respond to their complaint. So it's not just about keeping our officers healthy. It's about ensuring that we're doing our part to keep the community healthy as well. We've put an awful lot of protocols in place. We've changed how we've done business. We've adapted in many ways. We had 37 staff go down at the same time, where they were not all sick, but they were isolated. And the organization, we're resilient because we just continued to serve. We had to adapt. We pulled resources from different areas, and the members respond. And It's definitely, the organization is 135 years this year, but it's probably the strongest it's ever been. And I guess what doesn't, the old adage goes, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, and I think we are stronger today.
That was one of my, leads me to another question is, how many members strong is the Prince Albert Police Service?
The Prince Albert Police Service has 100 sworn members, and we police in an environment where our community needs a lot more than 100 sworn members. When we look at our calls and we look at the amount of calls, the complexity of the calls, and we look at the national comparators, provincial comparators, neighboring police services, we're doing twice the work as many. And so when we answer 40,000 calls last year, more than 40,000 calls, that's if we were policing with the national numbers for that call load, we have 216 police officers. We have 100, and that's reflected in the comparators here in Saskatchewan as well. And so, we look at the year we had last year, and we had just a horrible year for homicidal death. We responded to 9 victims of homicide. For a community our size, based on our stats, that's at a rate of 25 homicides per 100,000 people. The national, and I don't want to create fear, but the national homicide rate is 1.8 per 100,000 people. And so Saskatchewan and Regina, their rates are closer to 5 per 100,000. And, when you look at the resourcing model, and it's just uncomparable, where Saskatoon has close to 500 resources and Regina Police closer to 400. But we're, in a lot of ways, those major crimes, we're responding to similar numbers. And so it's definitely a challenge, but it's incredible to see the results. Our criminal investigative division continues to solve and hold accountable the people responsible for those crimes. Our other supporting officers and units look deep into the root causes and what can we do here, and what more do we need to do to make sure that the supports are in place that these crimes don't continue to happen. And so it's not just a response to the outcome. It's how do we prevent it next time. And so there's, again, we have an incredible police service. We have 100 sworn professionals supported by civilian professionals, and it's just incredible to see what we're able to achieve with a strong team.
Good. I'll let you take a breath there, John. Thanks. And we did have another question come in earlier, and I think you saw that question. It came. We learn a great deal from challenges in our careers, and those events help shape us. Is there something that you would say really impacted your career, John?
I think there's so many examples, so many events. I think of times where I chased armed suspects who were willing to shoot at or had shot at police officers, and I went out and I was at the front of the spear looking for them. And those you just did. One of the things that, and you didn't really think about it, you just did it because that's what you do. One of the things that really changed, my I guess outlook was when I was leading a patrol shift, and I was a staff sergeant and responsible for the safety of all the members. And we were searching for somebody that was wanted for serious criminal offenses that occurred outside our jurisdiction. We've been looking for them for quite some time. We had a plan we knew where to look, and we had a plan, and we were ready to respond in a strategic way to make the arrest. We knew that it would be with great resistance. And on the way to execute that plan, we got pulled off in different directions, and we responded into other serious incidents. And I made that decision to pull resources off. And at the time, I thought we were pulling all back from our other plan. and I didn't realize that we had people already, I guess, committed to the earlier plan and already going forward. I heard struggles and gasping coming through a radio, and I guess when you think one of your own is hurt, that changes you. So the gas.
We had another question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The gas I heard was a member fighting with somebody that was actively resisting. We lost radio contact for what felt like hours. It was seconds, and the outcomes were actually we were able to make the arrests that we were pursuing. But when you're responsible for others and their safety, when you experience the fear of not knowing and thinking the worst, I think that's something that carries you for the rest of your time. That's for sure. And we didn't do anything wrong, but being responsible for others is, I guess, that's a pretty powerful feeling. And so that's definitely something that changed me from being the person out front where I wasn't afraid of, doing what I needed to do, but definitely afraid of seeing somebody else hurt under my watch.
Another question we had come in was, what is the most positive change you've seen in Prince Albert in your time here?
Well, I guess there's so many ways to look at that. For the police service, there's been many positive changes that we've seen that have been exciting for us, for the community. I think all the things that we're watching now occurring are exciting and positive. When I drove up south of town and seen the amount of earth that has been moved in such a short period of time, and thinking about the facilities that are going to be built there, to me, those are some of the most exciting things that I've seen for Prince Albert. I remember back when Cornerstone was just a flat field in the middle of nowhere, and for some reasons, at the time it was SciAst that was planted out in the middle of it, and all of a sudden there's a city built around it. And I think that those are exciting. Exciting times for the police service are all the time. We're always, I think we're always excited about what's going to happen next and what we're going to be able to achieve, and how do we continue to grow. I'm excited now. I'm working towards, working with the Board of Police Commissioners to achieve some goals, and working with council to achieve some goals, and that's exciting, and I hope that we're able to do so. We know that some of the changes that we need to make are not always well received, but are important as well. And so, definitely when I think what's been exciting, I think about the whole city and what the community's been able to achieve.
Good. And I know you're probably actively recruiting, and are there a number of members that are soon to be facing retirement, things like that, or what situation is the staffing situation in, as well as recruiting for the new members?
So we do have a vacancy in our deputy chief position, and so we're open for applicants now. We're going to, there's a search firm that's working with us to guide us through a process which is open till the end of April. And so that's, the recruiting is occurring there, where it's open to internal applicants and also external applicants. We are looking at hiring. There's been a number of retirees that have occurred here in the last few months, and so there's a number of positions there. And again, we're hopeful and working towards growth. So we don't know yet how many we will be hiring, but we will be hiring. We are hiring. There's other things that we are working towards, and so we value diversity. It's part of our brand, and so part of that is the mentorship program that we're working with Métis Nation Saskatchewan to identify mentors to come and learn the job and develop and prepare them for policing opportunities as well. So those things are always exciting. Seeing a new recruit come back, we have 2 recruits at Police College right now. Seeing a new recruit come back, I feel the positive energy in the building. It's somebody that's excited, can't wait to get out there and drive the police car and respond to the needs of the community. And that positive energy, that fresh attitude, it's just you can feel it in the building. And so I always really enjoy the recruit grad, which is held in Regina. They've been virtual, of course, as of recent, but having our recruits back, that's one of the most exciting times here.
Another question that's come across is you mentioned your father was kind of an inspiration and mentor for you. Can you talk to us about, I know you really good chiefs to work for over the years, so can you talk about some other people who have inspired you?
When I joined the Prince Albert Police Service, it was Chief McCullough at the time. He retired shortly after, so the interaction was quite minimal there. And for typically a young police officer, I guess the opinion is you don't really want to interact with the chief because it might mean you're in trouble, but that's definitely not always the case. From there, I got to work under Chief John Quinn, and John came from Saskatchewan and had a great experience there and brought that here and again, but from a distance. And next it was after Chief Quinn retired, it was Chief Dale McPhee. And because we knew, I guess, worked with Dale through the organization. He was our president not long before that of the association. We definitely knew him at a more personal level, and so it was a different relationship. And I guess I learned an awful lot from the work that Chief McPhee did, and watching his aggressive determination to drive forward and effect positive change. When Dale left, Chief Troy Cooper took the position, and from the deputy chief position, so also knew Chief Cooper well, and what I guess if I was to highlight something that I learned from him, was the importance of building authentic, positive, strong relationships, not just internally but externally, and knowing your stakeholders and making sure that you're part of the community. And definitely watched Troy do an excellent job of building strong relationships with the community. And so you take you learn from everyone, and not just the earlier chiefs, but everybody you work with, and those were, I guess, some of the highlights that I took away from the chiefs that I served for prior to coming into the position.
Someone's asked a question about the PACT program, PACT, and how that's had an effect on you and your officers.
The police and crisis team is a integrated team with health, and we have 2 constables that are deployed in that work unit. So they work. The idea is to have them here every day, and they work 4 on, 4 off, and with the health partner. And what the work they do is incredibly important. They don't really work for the organization in that they don't typically service the needs of the members, but the community. And so what we see from them is that they understand the needs of somebody that's in mental health crisis, and they also know what supports to put in place. Where's the right person? Where's the right place to get that individual to make sure that they have the supports they need to address the health concerns that they have. And sometimes when you get to, if it's a member that's not experienced working extensively in that area, they don't always have the same knowledge and to, I guess, streamline, but also to make sure that they're making the right connections. So with our PACT officers, they built the relationships up with the staff at the hospital. They know who to see there. They know the process. They've streamlined the process. They've created efficiencies, and we've seen great outcomes. We had a presentation recently at the Board of Police Commissioners that was part of the public agenda, where we had our sergeant who's in charge of PACT present on some of the outcomes. And one of the positive stories of many, it was somebody that we were dealing with regularly, and somebody that ended up in our cell block regularly, and it was just ongoing. It was reciprocal. There was no plan. It was somebody that was going to continue to be arrested unless we had some other strategy put in place, and PACT was able to do that. And they didn't do it with what was available. They created the opportunity for that individual to make sure they had the supports they needed. And so, definitely value the work that comes out of the PACT officers, the expertise that's built, and the understanding to get people the help they need.
And I think that type of program goes back to, if I may remember correctly, Chief McPhee started it with kind of a more community style of policing, involving some of the other agencies in those to try and change those ways. And I know Troy carried on with that as your predecessor, and I think that's probably still a big thing that you're working towards.
The hub. So the work of the hub is still occurring here. We have a number of members that are involved in the hub, and that's exactly what it is. It's many different partners throughout the community that are at the table, and there's referrals that come in of individuals that need some supports, and so that hub model was new under Chief McPhee's term here, and it was new to Canada, and it's grown across Canada. We are basically the Canadian founders of it. We did learn from others, and it wasn't a completely new model, but it was new to us. And it's of course right now, under the pandemic, we haven't been able to do business the same. But the work and the individuals that support the hub are still doing that work together.
So we've got to know quite a bit about you, Chief Bergen, and the local police service. So what kind of things do you do to de-stress and wind yourself down?
Well, I was asked that by the Board of Police Commissioners, how do you manage stress? And I said, well, I run away from it. And that was my answer in my interview, and it's true. I get out there and I run. Physical fitness, I think, is it's part of my life, and when I'm out there putting on miles, enjoying that beautiful rotary trail, especially when you're watching the ice break up like it is today, that's definitely I guess one of my stress relievers is through fitness.
Good. Anything more you'd like to expand on your FBI experience there? I know someone had asked a question. Did you actually go through the front door of the FBI building, or did you get escorted through the back door?
Well, it was a combination of both. It was even just to enter onto the grounds, there was a number of security checkpoints that you went through that were armed security checkpoints, and I remember that we had to have. I'm sure we had to show our passports to get in. This was back in 2012, and it was a really awesome experience. When you look at the equipment and the training and the professionals that they are, it was a really, I guess, proud opportunity for me to be able to see what they all offer there, and also just to kind of understand how they train. And it is different. But it's not exceptionally different. And you look at their firing ranges and their tactical training and their deployments, specifically their dogs, because that's what I was there for. They called on us for a reason, because we knew something that they wanted to understand, or I guess to better understand, or to understand differently, and so that's why we were there.
Good. Well, this has been great, John. We didn't get into why you do what you do, and tell us a little bit about your family. So you are a married man, and tell us a little bit about your family, and then we'll see if there's any other questions, and then we'll.
Yeah, 2 teenage children. My younger one's gonna test for his license next week, and is a great driver, but very excited to get his license. And my older daughter, she's going to graduate this year, and so it's I guess like everybody's experience, they grow up way too fast, and that's definitely been mine too. But just great kids, great family.
If there's any one thing that may surprise anyone, maybe even the members on the force, that they don't know about Chief Jonathan Bergen.
Gee, I don't know. I want to say our members know all things, and what they don't know, they speculate. But no, at least we're supposed to know everything, aren't we? I feel like I'm skirting that one.
I think so. Oh, good. Another question just came in as we were talking about your family. Any children striving to be police officers?
Well, we definitely see a need here to recruit more female members. And so I often, promote policing to my daughter. She's pretty dead set against it at this time, and is looking at nursing. And but my son, I think, is definitely interested, and so we'll see if it's a goal that he continues to pursue. But he's definitely been interested.
Well, we thank you very much for being our guest, Chief Bergen, and we wish you well as you carry on in your career and keep our city safe. And we certainly appreciate that. Just for all of those of you who are on with us this evening, you can check out Prince Albert Chamber website for any upcoming events. I think there's a media event that's coming up on about the 20th of April, so you can check in and register for that. We just want to thank our sponsors again, Workmen's Compensation Board and Rock and Iron, and we thank you all for being with us this evening. So, anything else to say, Jonathan, before we sign off?
No, it's it's just been an awesome experience working for the Prince Albert Police Service and being part of the community. And when you talk about the chief's responsibility is to ensure public safety, and I think that's the community's responsibility, and we're in it together, and collectively we can achieve a safer community. But it's definitely been an awesome experience up to now, and I believe it will continue to be. Prince Albert Police Service is just a really real, true professional organization made up of great men and women. And I'm fortunate to been given this opportunity to serve as a police officer, but especially to serve as the chief for the Prince Albert Police Service. So thank you to the Chamber for inviting me to tell my story and to get to tell you who it is that I am, the person behind the position. And so I thank you for that opportunity. And I'll say good night, goodbye to all.
Okay, thanks everyone, and stay safe.